What if I told you that the very thing keeping you poor, anxious, and unfulfilled is not lack of opportunity, not lack of education, not lack of connections, but your own habit of overthinking? What if I told you that the endless circles of doubt in your mind are the chains the devil himself uses to keep you from God's plan? And what if I told you that until you break those chains by trust, nothing, no effort, no talent, no plan will ever work? You would call me extreme. You would say, surely it cannot be that simple. Yet I tell you, it is not only simple, it is law. You may be in debt today. You may have no savings, no property, no rich friends to help you. You may sit at your table rehearsing every failure, every lost chance, every painful regret. You may say to yourself, I have nothing, I know nothing, I am nothing. And still, I declare to you, if you continue overthinking, if you refuse to trust, then 10 years from now, you will be in the same place, only poorer, older, more bitter, and more ashamed. Because overthinking is not thought, it is fear in disguise. It is paralysis dressed up as caution. And fear is the tool of a man-made devil. But here is the mystery. There is a way out. There is a law that will free you. I will not hand it to you in a single phrase, because if I did, you would dismiss it as too obvious, too simple. I will walk you into it, step by step, until you cannot escape the truth. By the end of this speech, you will know not only why you must stop overthinking, but how to trust so completely in God's plan that your life will begin to move with a force you never imagined. Do not make the mistake of drifting through these words as entertainment. If you listen half-heartedly, if you nod in agreement but never act, you will gain nothing. You will walk away as you are, still bound, still circling, still wasting years. This law does not honor the lazy. It bows only to the definite, to the one who decides to trust completely. Think of it. Why does one man remain poor and anxious all his life, while another, with no greater talent, rises to wealth and peace? Why does one family remain trapped for generations, while another breaks free and builds a legacy? It is not chance. It is not fortune. It is trust. The man who trusts in fear will overthink forever and drift into nothing. The man who trusts in faith will act, and his action will be blessed. R.U. Darby was 3 feet from gold when he quit. His fear whispered, "It's gone, you failed." He overthought, he delayed, and he surrendered. He walked away from millions. Another man, less educated, less experienced, trusted the advice of an engineer, drilled a little further, and found a fortune. The difference was not labor, both worked. The difference was not opportunity, both had the same land. The difference was trust versus overthinking. One quit, one trusted, one lost, one gained. And I say to you, God's plan is revealed in the desire burning in your heart. Every time you overthink it, every time you delay, you are saying to God, I do not trust you. I will wait until I am certain. That hesitation is not prudence. It is rebellion. It is declaring that your fear is wiser than His plan, and rebellion never prospers. Trust, however, opens the gates of destiny. So listen carefully. For the next few minutes, silence every other thought. Forget your doubts, forget your regrets, forget the critics who mock you. Hold one question in your mind. What if I, today, finally trusted God's plan without hesitation? By the end of this speech, that question will no longer be a dream. It will be a command you can obey. Because I tell you plainly, trust, or it will never happen. Part 1, the trap of overthinking, fear as the great enemy. Fear is the tool of a man-made devil. Faith is the weapon that defeats him. You must understand this truth before all others. Every man who has failed, every woman who has wasted her years in waiting, has bowed before the spirit of fear. It enters silently. It disguises itself as caution, prudence, hesitation, or endless reflection. But its true name is paralysis. When a man falls victim to fear, his mind begins to circle upon itself. He repeats his thoughts until they grow weary and weak. He calls this thinking, but it is not thought. It is drifting, the state of mind that the devil loves most. Drifting is thought without purpose, motion without direction, labor without harvest. It is the slow death of ambition and the silent enemy of destiny. Overthinking is drifting clothed in the garments of reason. A man tells himself he is being wise, that he is making sure before he acts. Yet days pass, weeks vanish, years are swallowed, and still he has not moved. What has happened? He has surrendered his power to fear, and fear whispers, "Wait a little longer. Think once more. Delay until tomorrow." That whisper is the voice of defeat. Every overactive thought that leads nowhere has its roots in one of 6 fears: the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. These 6 phantoms have ruled the minds of men for centuries. They are the ghosts that stop the dreamer, the chains that bind the strong, the silent poison that steals the days of the hesitant. The fear of poverty whispers, "What if you fail and are left with nothing?" The fear of criticism hisses, "What will they say if you dare to step out of the common line?" The fear of ill health convinces you that your body is too weak for great tasks. The fear of loss of love frightens you into submission to please others. The fear of old age tells you it is too late to begin. And the fear of death asks, "Why strive when all must end?" These fears, when allowed to lodge in the mind, breed overthinking. The man sits at his table with pen in hand and plan in heart, but he delays. He repeats to himself all the reasons why he must wait, why the time is not right, why the path is not clear. The hours pass, the opportunity departs, and he remains where he was. He calls it careful thought, but it is fear in disguise. Consider the story of R.U. Darby, who joined his uncle in the Colorado gold rush. They struck a vein of shining ore and believed themselves rich. They worked with zeal, shipped their first loads, and dreamed of fortune. Yet soon the vein disappeared. They drilled and drilled, but the gold seemed gone. At last, weary and defeated, they sold their equipment to a junkman and returned home, believing all was lost. But the junkman sought expert counsel. A mining engineer examined the land and discovered that the Darbys had stopped drilling a mere 3 feet from the richest vein. The junkman resumed the work and took millions from the very earth that Darby had abandoned. What robbed Darby of fortune? Not lack of labor, not lack of desire. It was overthinking, born of fear, that convinced him to quit just before triumph. Darby learned his lesson. He later entered the insurance business and vowed never again to stop because men said no. He sold over $1 million in policies each year because he remembered that gold lost through fear could be regained through persistence. But how many men never recover? How many end their lives haunted by what might have been, all because they feared to trust, feared to act, feared to believe? Fear is cunning. It disguises itself in the language of prudence. It whispers that someday will be the right day. It convinces men that they must be absolutely certain before they take one step forward. But no man can see the entire path before he walks. God reveals the way by degrees. To demand complete sight before moving is to deny God's method, to reject his plan, and to enthrone fear in his place. You must know that the devil's greatest workshop is the idle mind. A mind that drifts without decision becomes his servant. He feeds it with fears, fills it with doubts, and directs it to useless thoughts. He does not need to destroy you with calamity. He only needs to make you delay, and delay is the most costly thief of all. The richest treasure chests of the world are graveyards filled with unwritten books, unrealized plans, and unlived dreams. Overthinking is not wisdom, it is wasted energy. Wisdom is swift and definite. Wisdom weighs, decides, and acts. Wisdom learns by moving forward, not by standing still. Overthinking is cowardice parading as caution. It is the fear of choosing wrongly, which results in not choosing at all. And not choosing is the worst decision of all, for it is surrender to fate instead of obedience to faith. You cannot think your way into freedom while you are enslaved by fear. You must recognize that thought is power only when it is directed with definiteness of purpose. An arrow may be sharp, but it is useless until it is aimed. The mind may be strong, but it is wasted until it is fastened upon a definite goal. Overthinking is the archer who forever pulls the string but never releases the shaft. Men justify their overthinking by saying they are waiting on God. But God does not honor delay born of fear. God has already placed within you the seed of his plan. He demands faith, not hesitation. He demands trust, not worry. To wait endlessly is not faith. It is rebellion, for it refuses to move when he has already spoken in the burning desire of your heart. Every step of progress in the history of mankind has been taken by men who refuse to overthink. Edison, in the face of thousands of failures, persisted until he brought light to the world. Lincoln, in spite of defeat after defeat, trusted the plan that lifted him to the presidency. Ford, laughed at for his vision of a horseless carriage, moved forward until he placed wheels under the world. None of these men surrendered to the paralysis of fear. The man who trusts in fear will always overthink, and the man who overthinks will always drift. But the man who trusts in faith acts. He may stumble, he may fall, he may endure defeat, but he moves forward. Each defeat becomes a seed of victory. Each fall a preparation for rising higher. Action guided by faith is obedience to God's law. Inaction governed by fear is slavery to the devil's law. Therefore, I warn you, if you would ever achieve, you must master this enemy of overthinking. You must cast out the 6 fears. You must refuse to drift. You must look fear in the face and declare, "You are not my master." I think with definiteness. I act with courage. I trust God's plan, not the whispers of my doubts. Only then can you escape the snare of hesitation and the trap of delay. I say again, fear is the tool of a man-made devil. Faith is the weapon that defeats him. Overthinking is the battlefield where fear wages war against your destiny. If you surrender to it, you drift, you delay, and you die with your song unsung. If you resist it with faith, you act, you persist, and you live as the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. And now, having torn away the mask of overthinking and exposed it as fear in disguise, I will lead you into the truth that conquers it. For just as fear is the seed of all drifting, faith is the seed of all triumph. In the next part, I shall show you how to replace fear with complete trust in God's plan and how to walk in the certainty that nothing can defeat a man who lives by faith. Part 2, Faith, the medium of all miracles. All achievement begins with burning desire, but only faith makes desire real. Desire is the spark that lights the fire. Faith is the oil that keeps it burning until the flame becomes a blazing inferno. Without faith, desire is a dream that fades with the morning sun. With faith, desire becomes substance, reality, and fortune. Faith is the medium of all miracles. Faith is not a vague hope, nor a timid wish. Faith is a state of mind, definite and commanding. It is the confident assurance that what you seek already exists in the unseen, waiting for your claim. When a man believes with burning intensity, infinite intelligence bends the very forces of the universe to bring him the substance of his thought. Faith is the law that links man to God. When I speak of faith, I do not mean idle belief. I mean faith as a living power, a spiritual law as exact as gravity. It cannot be bought. It cannot be stolen. It must be cultivated. And once cultivated, it will move mountains. It will open doors where none seem to exist. It will create riches where only poverty appears. Faith is the invisible force that makes the impossible possible. Charles M. Schwab, once a young steel worker with little to his name, rose to the pinnacle of industry through faith. He believed in Andrew Carnegie's vision when others doubted. When Carnegie placed before him the plan of uniting scattered steel companies into the United States Steel Corporation, Schwab did not hesitate. He trusted the vision, placed his faith in it, and delivered. That faith was worth $600 million. Faith always precedes achievement, it precedes money, it precedes inventions, it precedes success. Thomas Edison did not see the electric lamp before he created it, but he believed it could exist, and that belief carried him through 10,000 failures until faith gave birth to light. Henry Ford did not see the automobile in every man's driveway when he began, but he believed it, and the belief brought forth a new age of transportation. Faith is the only antidote to fear. Where faith abides, fear cannot dwell. Fear looks backward and imagines calamity. Faith looks forward and sees victory. Fear says, "What if I fail?" Faith answers, "What if I succeed?" Fear paralyzes. Faith mobilizes. Fear chains the mind. Faith releases its power. If you would overcome overthinking, you must cultivate faith, for it replaces fear with action and obedience to God's plan. The cultivation of faith requires repetition. What you say to yourself daily becomes the food of your subconscious mind. If you repeat the language of fear, "I cannot, I may fail, I am not ready," your subconscious accepts it as law and produces according to it. If you repeat the language of faith, "I can, I will, I must," your subconscious receives that order and moves every power to fulfill it. Therefore, I command you to use auto-suggestion, the deliberate planting of faith in your mind. Stand before your mirror morning and night. Speak aloud words of conviction until they take root. Declare, "I live by faith, not by fear. I trust the plan laid out for me. I see myself already victorious." Repeat these words until your voice trembles with belief and your heart beats with certainty. Faith is the bridge between the finite mind and infinite intelligence. It is the only medium through which man may call upon God to translate his desires into reality. The man who acts in faith walks in partnership with the Almighty. His plans are fortified with divine power. His steps are guided by unseen hands. His path may twist and turn, but the destination is assured, for faith is God's language. When a man prays, he is practicing faith, but let him not pray timidly. Let him pray with definiteness, with belief that what he asks is already his. Infinite intelligence responds not to empty words, but to burning faith. A prayer without belief is noise. A prayer with faith is power. Faith transforms prayer from hope into command, and infinite intelligence answers that command with results. I have seen faith restore health where physicians declared hopelessness. I have seen faith lift men from poverty to fortune. I have seen faith transform timid souls into leaders of nations. History is filled with men and women who were not the wisest, nor the strongest, nor the most skilled, but who possessed faith so bold that the world had no choice but to bow before it. Faith is the eternal advantage. Do not confuse faith with luck. There is no such thing as luck. Luck is the word used by the lazy to describe the achievements of the faithful. Faith does not gamble. It does not drift. Faith acts with purpose, moves with decision, and persists until the unseen becomes seen. What others call chance is the harvest of faith sown in silence and reaped in triumph. When overthinking besieges you, remember this: you cannot see the entire plan because it is not yours alone. God's plan is revealed step by step, not in its entirety. Faith means moving on the light you have, trusting that more light will come. To refuse to move until you see the whole path is to deny God. To step forward with what you know is to trust Him fully. If you would banish fear, practice faith as you would practice any skill. Repeat affirmations until they burn in your mind. Associate with those whose faith is strong, for faith is contagious as much as fear is. Guard your mind from the words of doubters, for their fear will creep into your spirit. Place yourself daily in the atmosphere of faith until it becomes your natural air. Say with me now, I live by faith, not by fear. I trust the plan laid out for me. I see myself already victorious. I obey the whisper of desire within, for it is God's message to my soul. I know that every step forward is guided by infinite intelligence. I refuse to overthink, for I believe. I refuse to doubt, for I trust. I refuse to drift, for I am definite. Faith is the most practical of all laws. It is not a mystery, though it is unseen. It is as real as electricity, as exact as mathematics, as certain as sunrise. It yields to him who obeys its conditions: definiteness of purpose, repetition of belief, association with faith-filled minds, and action without hesitation. Meet these conditions, and faith will reward you beyond your imagination. Therefore, let no man excuse himself by saying, I lack faith. Faith can be cultivated as surely as muscle can be strengthened. Begin with repetition. Begin with small acts of trust. Begin with affirmations that stir the heart. Each day your faith will grow until it becomes a mighty fortress. And once that fortress is built, no storm of fear, no shadow of doubt, no whisper of criticism can shake it. Remember always, overthinking is the symptom of unbelief. Faith is the cure. When you live by faith, you need not replay the same thought 1,000 times. You decide, you act, and you rest in the assurance that infinite intelligence moves with you. Faith frees the mind from endless circles and fills it with straight paths. Faith is the end of overthinking and the beginning of certainty. Part 3. Decision, the end of doubt. Overthinking is indecision clothed in fine garments. It parades as wisdom, but it is cowardice. The man who waits, hesitates, and delays is the man who has surrendered his power to doubt. Doubt is the seed of fear, and fear is the destroyer of faith. Until you learn to decide swiftly and firmly, you will remain a servant of drifting. Decision is the end of doubt. The mastery of procrastination is the mastery of destiny. Every fortune I have studied, every leader I have examined, has possessed the power of decision. Andrew Carnegie amassed his empire because he decided promptly and acted without hesitation. The weak drift with the tide of public opinion, but the strong chart their own course, and their decision becomes law to all around them. Henry Ford offers one of the greatest lessons in decision. When his engineers declared it was impossible to cast an 8-cylinder engine in one block, Ford replied with a simple command, "Produce it anyway." They failed for months, even years, but Ford would not change his decision. His definiteness forced discovery. Today, the V8 stands as a monument to the power of one man's decision. Indecision breeds overthinking. The mind replays the same question. Should I? Should I not? Shall I wait? Shall I act? Each circle drains power, weakens courage, and paralyzes action. Decision breaks the circle. Decision releases energy. Decision commands the faculties of imagination, faith, and persistence to unite in immediate action. Without decision, faith is wasted. With decision, faith is made flesh. Men excuse their delay by saying they seek certainty. But certainty never comes before decision. It comes after. When you decide, you send a message to infinite intelligence that you are ready, and then the way is shown. To refuse to decide until you see the entire path is to reject God's order, for he reveals the plan step by step. Decision is trust in his guidance. The truly great men of history were stubborn in decision. Lincoln was pressed from every side to compromise, but he stood immovable when the destiny of the Union required firmness. Edison endured ridicule and endless failures, yet never wavered in his decision to bring light to the world. Napoleon Bonaparte declared that nothing was more difficult and nothing more precious than the power to decide. Decision is not reckless haste. It is definiteness of purpose expressed in action. Recklessness is blind impulse. Decision is vision guided by faith. The difference is this: recklessness leaps without purpose. Decision leaps with direction. Recklessness wastes energy. Decision multiplies it. Recklessness drifts with chance. Decision commands opportunity. Both move, but only one moves toward destiny. Indecision is the soil in which fear grows. It begins as a small hesitation, a moment of delay, a pause for further thought. Soon it becomes a habit, then a prison. Men who fail are men who never learn to decide. They drift with public opinion. They bend to the will of critics. They delay until the opportunity has passed, and then they call themselves unlucky. But their true enemy was indecision. Do you wish to honor God's plan? Then decide. Decide to act upon the desire He has planted in your heart. Decide to move forward, even if the path is dim. Decide to obey the whisper of imagination, the nudge of opportunity, the call of faith. Each decision, however small, strengthens your power. Each decision made in faith builds a habit of mastery. Each decision is a step out of fear into trust. Say with me now, I decide swiftly and firmly. I am guided by divine wisdom, and I act in obedience. My hesitation is gone. My doubt is slain. I know that God's plan reveals itself only when I decide to walk in it. I refuse to drift. I refuse to waver. I refuse to surrender to fear. I am a man of decision, and my decision is law. Overthinking dies when decision lives. You cannot serve both masters. If you decide, you silence the voice of fear, you end the endless circle, and you open the door of action. But if you delay, the circle continues, fear grows stronger, and the opportunity vanishes. Decision is the sword that cuts the knot of overthinking. One stroke, and the tangled cords of doubt fall away. When you face a choice, do not consult the timid or the faithless. Their fears will become your fears, and their hesitation will paralyze you. Consult your own desire, the whisper of infinite intelligence within. Decide, and then act. The timid may call you reckless, but time will reveal that decision was wisdom. History never honors the hesitant. It honors the man who decided when others wavered. I say to you, indecision is rebellion against God. To delay when He has spoken in your desire is to insult the source of your gifts. He did not place the dream within you to see it buried under hesitation. He placed it there to be acted upon. Each delay is disobedience. Each decision is obedience. Which will you choose? Fear's rebellion or faith's obedience? Remember the story of Darby, who stopped 3 feet from gold. It was not failure of labor that ruined him. It was failure of decision. He decided to quit. The junk man decided to persist. One lost a fortune, the other gained it. The difference was decision. The gold of life lies ever 3 feet beyond hesitation. Only decision will bring you to it. When you train yourself to decide quickly and firmly, you will find that men begin to respect you. The world loves decisiveness even when it fears it. Men and women of weak decision instinctively submit to those whose minds are definite. Decision commands loyalty, attracts opportunity, and multiplies faith. The undecided are servants. The decided are masters. Do not be deceived by appearances. The man who hesitates may appear thoughtful, but his thought is fruitless. The man who decides may appear stubborn, but his stubbornness bears fruit. The one spends years in reflection and dies with regret. The other acts with courage and dies with triumph. Better to be wrong in decision than right in hesitation, for even a wrong decision can be corrected by persistence. Now I call upon you to end the tyranny of overthinking. Resolve this very hour to decide. Decide upon your purpose. Decide upon your plan. Decide upon your path. Write it, speak it, and act upon it. Do not look back. Do not waver. Do not explain yourself to doubters. Once decided, cling to that decision until time and effort prove it wise. This is the habit of all who rise to greatness. And now, having established decision as the cure for doubt and the slayer of overthinking, I must lead you further. For decision alone is not enough. Every man can decide for a moment. Only the strong persist. God will test your faith through obstacles, defeats, and trials. In the next part, I shall show you how persistence proves your trust in God's plan, and how temporary defeat conceals the seed of future triumph. Part 4. Persistence, trust tested by adversity. Temporary defeat is never permanent failure. It is only the seed of future triumph. Yet most men, when faced with defeat, surrender. They overthink, they analyze, they explain, they excuse, and by doing so, they abandon the gold that lies just beneath the surface. The man who persists knows that God plants treasures behind trials. The man who quits proves that he never trusted. Persistence is faith in action. It is the visible proof that a man believes in his purpose, his plan, and his God. Without persistence, decision is weak, faith is fleeting, and desire is shallow. With persistence, even the smallest flame of faith becomes an eternal fire. Persistence is the bridge between decision and destiny. It is the refusal to stop when defeat stands in the way. Consider Thomas Edison. He dreamed of a lamp that would harness electric power and bring light to the world. He failed once, twice, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. In truth, he failed more than 10,000 times. But each failure was not an end. It was instruction. His persistence was so unshakable that it forced the universe to yield. At last, the lamp glowed and the world was changed forever. Edison said he had not failed 10,000 times. He had discovered 10,000 ways that would not work. That is the philosophy of persistence. It sees every defeat as instruction, every obstacle as training, every delay as preparation. Overthinking calls defeat a disaster. Persistence calls it a teacher. Overthinking stops to complain. Persistence moves forward, gathering strength with each step. Overthinking is the opposite of persistence. The overthinker revisits the same defeat in his mind until it becomes larger than life. He circles the problem endlessly, never moving forward. The persistent man, though beaten down, rises again, saying, "I will not quit until victory is mine." Overthinking consumes energy in useless circles. Persistence converts energy into forward motion. One drifts, the other conquers. God tests faith through adversity. He places obstacles in the path not to destroy you, but to prove you. Without resistance, there is no strength. Without trials, there is no triumph. Without persistence, there is no proof of trust. Every trial conceals a blessing, and persistence uncovers it. Those who quit never learn that God's delay is not denial, but preparation for greater victory. R.U. Darby learned persistence through loss. He stopped 3 feet from gold and forfeited a fortune, but he later resolved never again to quit. In the insurance business, when men told him no, he remembered the gold mine and pressed forward until he heard yes. He became one of the greatest salesmen of his time. Persistence transformed his defeat into lifelong triumph. Every man is called to his own test. Some are tested with poverty, some with criticism, some with ill health, some with betrayal, some with failure. But all are tested. The difference between the weak and the strong is persistence. The weak surrender to fear. The strong continue, though weary, bruised, and mocked. Persistence is proof of trust in God's plan. It is obedience in the face of opposition. When faith is strong, persistence becomes natural. You do not ask whether to continue, you simply continue. Like a river carving stone, you press forward day by day, never retreating. The stone may resist for years, but the river wins. Likewise, the world may resist your desire, but persistence will carve the channel through which destiny flows. The man who persists cannot be denied forever. Say with me now, I persist. I stand firm. I know that every trial conceals my treasure. My defeats are but teachers. My delays are but preparation. I refuse to quit. I refuse to surrender. I refuse to drift. I trust the plan. I honor the test, and I move forward until my faith is proven. I persist, for persistence is my obedience to God's call. History reveals that persistence is the common mark of all success. Lincoln failed in business, was defeated in elections, and suffered years of discouragement. Yet he persisted, and at last he preserved a nation. Rockefeller was mocked as a dreamer, but he persisted until he mastered the oil industry. Carnegie began in poverty, but he persisted until he became a master of steel. None of them escaped trials. All of them mastered persistence. Do not deceive yourself into thinking that persistence is easy. It is not. It requires courage when all seems lost, discipline when the body is weary, and faith when the night is long. But it is precisely in those moments that persistence proves its power. Anyone can continue when the path is smooth. Only the faithful persist when the way is dark. That is why persistence is rare and why it is priceless. Overthinking tempts you to stop and wait for perfect conditions. Persistence demands that you act now with what you have. Overthinking tells you to gather more information. Persistence tells you to use the information you already possess. Overthinking asks, what if I fail? Persistence answers, what if I succeed? Overthinking paralyzes. Persistence liberates. The two cannot live together in the same mind. When you feel the sting of temporary defeat, do not linger in self-pity. Rise, for each fall is a lesson. Do not rehearse the pain in thought. Rehearse the victory in faith. Say to yourself, this defeat is not permanent. This obstacle is not final. I persist, for behind this trial lies my triumph. Persistence turns defeat into fuel, delay into discipline, pain into preparation, and faith into fact. Every persistent act strengthens your character. Each day you persist, you become more definite, more courageous, more disciplined. The muscles of faith grow with each act of endurance. Soon persistence becomes habit, and habit becomes character, and character becomes destiny. The man who persists daily in small things will be unshakable when great trials arrive. Persistence is built like a fortress, brick by brick. Let no man excuse himself by saying, I lack persistence. Persistence, like faith, can be cultivated. Begin by finishing small tasks. Begin by refusing to quit when discomfort arises. Begin by standing firm when criticism comes. Each act of perseverance builds strength for greater battles. Persistence is not a gift for the few. It is a choice for the many. Choose it, practice it, and it will become your nature. When you persist, infinite intelligence responds. God honors those who continue in trust. He opens doors that were shut, reveals paths that were hidden, and sends allies when all seemed lost. But he does not reward hesitation, drifting, or surrender. He rewards the man who persists, the man who proves his faith through action, the man who presses forward, though bruised and weary. Therefore I say persist. Persist when the night is long. Persist when the critics mock. Persist when the gold seems gone. Persist when the dream delays. Persist, for persistence is trust tested by adversity. Persist, for persistence is faith clothed in action. Persist, for persistence is the habit of all who triumph. Persist, and you will discover that no defeat is final, no obstacle is permanent, and no dream is impossible. Part 5, Imagination, God's Workshop in the Mind. Imagination is the workshop of the mind, where man fashions the desires of his heart into reality. Every invention, every fortune, every work of greatness began first as a thought in imagination. The house you dwell in, the book you read, the machine you use, all were once intangible pictures in a man's mind before they became substance. Imagination is God's gift to man. There are two forms of imagination, synthetic and creative. Synthetic imagination rearranges old ideas into new combinations. Creative imagination receives new ideas directly from infinite intelligence. The one is built from memory. The other is whispered by God himself. Both are sacred, but creative imagination is the greater, for it opens the door between the mind of man and the wisdom of the Almighty. Trusting God means receiving His plan through imagination. You may not hear His voice in thunder or see His hand in fire, but you can receive His message as an idea, a vision, a sudden certainty. When you pray with faith and meditate with purpose, infinite intelligence plants seeds in your imagination. To ignore these seeds is to insult the giver. To trust them and act upon them is obedience to divine law. Consider Guglielmo Marconi. He dreamed of harnessing the invisible forces of the ether to send messages without wires. His friends thought him insane and had him committed to an asylum. Yet Marconi's faith in his imagination did not falter. He trusted the vision God had given him. Soon the radio became a reality, linking the world and proving that imagination guided by faith is truth, not fantasy. The Wright brothers, bicycle mechanics with little schooling, dreamed of a machine that could fly. The world mocked. Learned men declared it impossible. Yet the Wrights believed the vision in their imagination more than the voices of doubt. They acted upon it, persisted through failures, and at last soared above the sands of Kitty Hawk. Their imagination, joined with faith, lifted mankind into the sky. Overthinking kills imagination. It drowns the whisper of infinite intelligence in the noise of doubt. The man who insists on analyzing every risk, questioning every step, and rehearsing every fear suffocates the very faculty through which God speaks. Imagination cannot bloom in the soil of fear. It requires faith, silence, openness, and obedience. To overthink is to choke the seed. To trust is to water it. Say with me now, my mind is God's workshop. I receive His ideas and turn them into deeds. I trust the visions He gives me. I do not dismiss them as foolishness. I do not bury them under fear. I see them as instructions, blueprints of my destiny, drawn by the hand of infinite intelligence. I act upon them with courage, knowing that they are my guidance. Every fortune I have studied began with imagination. Edwin C. Barnes imagined himself a business associate of Edison. He had no money, no connections, no experience. But his imagination was so vivid that he saw himself already in partnership. He acted, persisted, and at last his imagination became fact. Imagination gave him direction. Faith and persistence gave him reality. Imagination must be definite. A vague wish is nothing. A clear picture, impressed upon the mind and repeated with faith, becomes a magnet. The subconscious accepts it. Infinite intelligence blesses it. An opportunity arises to fulfill it. But the picture must be specific. Do not say, I desire wealth. Say, I imagine myself possessing $50,000 by this date through this service. Then act. God has given you imagination not to waste on fear, but to use for creation. Yet most men employ it against themselves. They imagine failure, poverty, illness, ridicule. They build pictures of calamity until fear becomes reality. They are faithful to their fears. You must reverse this law. Imagine riches, health, love, victory. Be faithful to these visions, and they too will become reality. The power of imagination explains why persistence is possible. When the path is dark, imagination paints the light ahead. When defeat arrives, imagination pictures victory. When critics mock, imagination hears the applause of triumph. Without imagination, persistence dies. With imagination, persistence grows. For imagination allows you to see the end before you arrive. That vision sustains you through every trial. Imagination is the channel through which inventions are born. Edison imagined a lamp before it existed. Ford imagined the automobile for the masses before it was possible. Rockefeller imagined a world supplied with oil before he controlled a single well. Carnegie imagined a steel empire while he was still a telegraph boy. Imagination gave them direction, and faith made them obey. Therefore, I say to you, cherish your imagination. Guard it from fear, feed it with faith, Exercise it daily. Picture your desire clearly. Speak it aloud. Write it on paper. Repeat it until it becomes an obsession. Treat it as sacred, for it is the voice of infinite intelligence speaking to you. To dishonor it is to reject your destiny. To obey it is to fulfill God's plan. Let no man mock your imagination. Every prophet was once mocked. Every dreamer was once ridiculed. Every innovator was once called mad. Yet time revealed that imagination was truth, while the critics vanished into silence. Trust your imagination when it is joined with faith. It is not madness. It is revelation. It is not fantasy. It is guidance. It is not folly. It is destiny. The overthinker dismisses imagination as too risky. He demands proof before he acts. But imagination is the proof. It is the blueprint. The building does not precede the plan precedes the building. So it is with your life. The vision comes first in imagination, then the reality follows in substance. To demand substance before vision is ignorance. To trust vision before substance is wisdom. Say again with me, my mind is God's workshop. I receive his ideas and turn them into deeds. I honor imagination as divine instruction. I picture my desire with definiteness. I trust the vision more than the doubts of men. I act, I persist, and I triumph. For imagination joined with faith is the voice of God. Part 6, organized planning, aligning with God's order. God is a God of order. The stars march in their paths with precision. The seasons keep their appointed times. The tides obey their rhythm. If the universe is governed by order, how can you expect success without it? Desire gives birth to vision. Imagination provides the plan, but organized planning gives it structure. Without planning, imagination is chaos. With planning, it is creation. A definite plan is the crystallization of faith. It transforms vague vision into specific action. Men fail not for lack of imagination, but for lack of organized planning. They drift with vague dreams, never writing them down, never assigning dates, never preparing steps. Infinite intelligence rewards definiteness, not vagueness. Faith requires proof in deeds, and deeds require a plan. Andrew Carnegie built his empire not by accident, but by organized planning. He surrounded himself with men whose talents surpassed his own. This was his mastermind group. Each brought knowledge, skill, and vision. Carnegie directed, but together they planned with precision. From those plans came steel mills, railroads, and fortunes. Without organized planning, even Carnegie's vision would have withered. The mastermind is the highest form of organized planning. It is the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more minds for the attainment of a definite purpose. No single man possesses all knowledge, but when men meet in harmony, their minds blend, and infinite intelligence joins their counsel. Thus, plans are created that no man alone could conceive. If you would honor God's order, form your mastermind. Choose men and women of faith, courage, and skill. Meet with them regularly. Share your definite purpose. Draw upon their strength. Do not allow discord, for harmony is essential. As the Bible says, where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst. So it is with a mastermind. Infinite intelligence attends the meeting. Overthinking resists planning. The overthinker waits for perfect conditions, demands complete certainty, and wastes years in endless speculation. But faith does not delay. Faith writes the plan with what light it has, sets the date, and begins at once. It adjusts as needed, but it begins. Overthinking is endless motion without direction. Planning is direction that commands motion. Write your plan clearly. State what you desire when you desire it, and what you will give in return. Outline the steps to be taken. Assign dates. Measure progress. Do not wait until the plan is perfect, for no plan is ever perfect. Begin now, and perfection will grow with action. A weak plan executed is stronger than a perfect plan never begun. Remember that failure often follows poor planning. But failure is not permanent. It is instruction. Revise the plan, improve it, and persist. Edison revised his plans thousands of times before his lamp burned. Ford revised his designs before his automobile succeeded. Rockefeller adjusted his strategies before mastering oil. The great do not abandon plans. They refine them until victory is won. Say with me now, I plan with definiteness, and I act with faith. My plans align with God's order. I write my desire clearly. I set my dates firmly. I outline my steps specifically. I consult with men of faith and wisdom. I persist through failure, for failure is only instruction. My plans grow stronger with each test. I move forward in order, as God Himself has ordered the universe. A plan without action is dead. Do not wait until all resources are gathered. Begin where you are, with what you have. The man who waits for all conditions to be perfect will never begin. Begin with your present tools, and better tools will appear. Begin with your current allies, and greater allies will join. God honors action, not delay. He multiplies resources only for those who start. The history of commerce proves this law. Men who waited perished. Men who acted triumphed. The merchant who risked his ships across the sea brought home riches. The farmer who sowed though the clouds threatened reaped a harvest. The entrepreneur who planned and acted in faith built industries. Fortune has no mercy for the hesitant, but she bows to the man of organized planning and bold execution. Guard your plans from critics. The overthinker delights in tearing down the visions of others. Reveal your plan only to those who support it. Critics will infect you with fear. Keep your purpose before you, your plan upon paper, and your faith in your heart. When the plan is strong in results, then reveal it. Until then, guard it as a seedling in the soil, hidden until its roots are strong. Do not confuse planning with overplanning. The timid spend years arranging details, then perish without action. True planning moves swiftly from thought to paper to action. It allows adjustment, but it demands movement. The only way to perfect a plan is to test it in action. The battlefield reveals flaws that the desk never shows. Begin, adjust, and persist until victory is won. Organized planning requires discipline. You must schedule your hours, manage your resources, and direct your attention. The drifter wastes time, the planner redeems it. The drifter squanders resources, the planner multiplies them. The drifter scatters his thoughts, the planner concentrates them. Concentrated effort, directed by plan, is the difference between wish and wealth, between drifting and destiny. Remember that God blesses order. He rewards definiteness. He does not favor vagueness. He does not honor endless waiting. He reveals His plan step by step, but He requires you to write it, to commit to it, and to move upon it. To overthink is to dishonor His law. To plan and act is to obey it. Trust His order by bringing order into your life. Therefore, I say, plan with definiteness. Write it, speak it, act upon it, adjust as needed, persist until it succeeds, align your plans with God's order, surround yourself with allies of faith, guard your purpose from critics, and act without delay. Then watch as infinite intelligence multiplies your efforts, opens doors, and brings results greater than you dreamed. Part 7, the subconscious mind and infinite intelligence. The subconscious mind is the connecting link between man and infinite intelligence. It receives every thought, every word, every image impressed upon it, and it acts as a channel to the source of all power. It does not reason. It does not question. It accepts what you feed it, whether faith or fear, and it translates it into reality. Thus, the man becomes the master or the slave of his own mind. Overthinking poisons the subconscious. Each doubt repeated, each fear rehearsed, each hesitation indulged, becomes a command to the subconscious to bring forth paralysis. The man who continually pictures failure will meet it. The man who continually rehearses poverty will live in it. The subconscious obeys the law of suggestion. It produces what you feed it, whether poison or nourishment. Faith purifies the subconscious. When you impress it with definite purpose, burning desire, and repeated affirmations, it accepts these as law. It then connects with infinite intelligence, drawing upon wisdom, opportunity, and power far beyond the conscious mind. Faith is the only language the subconscious understands in its highest form. Speak to it in faith, and it will translate faith into miracles. Say with me now, I feed my mind only with faith, courage, and trust. My subconscious obeys God's law. It receives no fear, no doubt, no criticism. It receives only faith, definiteness, persistence, and trust. I guard my mind as sacred ground, planting only seeds that will yield abundance. I refuse to overthink, for I know the subconscious will grow whatever seed I sow. Consider the story of my own son. He was born without ears, and physicians declared he would be deaf and mute for life. Yet I refused to accept that verdict. I impressed upon my subconscious and upon his the belief that he would hear. I planted it daily through affirmations, stories, and faith. Years passed, but at last technology became the tool through which faith was fulfilled. He heard, and his life was transformed. This is the mystery of the subconscious. It does not concern itself with time. It holds the vision until conditions align. Years may pass, obstacles may arise, but if the seed of faith is planted, the harvest will come. My son's triumph was not an accident of science. It was the fruit of faith impressed upon the subconscious and held there without wavering. The subconscious draws upon infinite intelligence, which is God's universal mind. This is the source of inventions, inspirations, and flashes of genius. Edison spoke of receiving ideas in moments of calm when his mind was receptive. Lincoln confessed to being guided by impressions he could not explain. The subconscious, when aligned with faith, becomes the doorway through which infinite intelligence speaks. Guard your subconscious from the whispers of fear. Critics, doubters, and scoffers are sowers of weeds. Their words, if permitted, will lodge in your mind and grow into thorns that choke your purpose. Close your ears to them. Associate only with those who speak faith, courage, and trust. Feed daily upon affirmations. Pray with definiteness. Picture your desire clearly. The subconscious will accept no less and deliver no more than what you impress upon it. Overthinking fills the subconscious with contradictions. One day you affirm faith, the next day you rehearse fear. 1 hour you picture wealth, the next you picture poverty. The subconscious, confused by opposing commands, produces confusion in results. But when you are definite, persistent, and unwavering, it moves with power. Single-minded faith produces single-minded results. The subconscious works while you sleep. It never rests. When you retire at night, it continues to process your last thoughts. Feed it with faith before sleep. Repeat your affirmations aloud. Picture your desire vividly. Express gratitude. Then rest, knowing that the subconscious is working in harmony with infinite intelligence to bring your vision into reality. What you dream at night is often the seed of what you will live by day. The great men of history practiced this law. Carnegie impressed definiteness of purpose upon his mind until it became an obsession. Ford pictured the automobile in every home until it was fact. Edison rehearsed the image of light until it burned in reality. They were not men of chance. They were men who trained their subconscious to obey faith, not fear. Their results were the fruit of obedience to this law. Say again with me, I feed my mind only with faith, courage, and trust. My subconscious obeys God's law. I reject the whispers of fear. I refuse the poison of doubt. I choose the seed of faith. I plant it daily. I guard it carefully. I trust infinite intelligence to water it, to nurture it, and to bring forth a harvest greater than I can imagine. Prayer is the highest form of suggestion to the subconscious, but prayer without faith is wasted breath. When you pray, believe that what you ask is already yours. Speak it with definiteness. Picture it clearly. Express gratitude as though it were already done. Then release it to infinite intelligence through the subconscious. Faith-filled prayer is the seed. Action is the cultivation. Harvest is the result. The subconscious does not distinguish between riches and poverty, courage and fear, health and illness. It accepts what you impress. Therefore, be vigilant. Do not idle idle talk, negative company, or self-pity to sow destructive seeds. Each complaint is a command. Each doubt is an instruction. Each fearful word is a poison. Speak only faith, and the subconscious will obey only faith. Your greatest responsibility is to guard the gateway of your mind. If you fail here, no plan will succeed, no imagination will bear fruit, no persistence will endure. The subconscious is the soil of destiny. Sow weeds, reap weeds. Sow faith, reap abundance. This law is universal, eternal, and impartial. It favors no man, it condemns no man. It simply yields what is planted. Therefore, I command you, stop overthinking. Overthinking is double-mindedness, a sin against the law of faith. Decide what you desire, picture it clearly, affirm it daily, guard it jealously, persist until it becomes reality. Trust the process, for the subconscious connected to infinite intelligence will not fail you. Only fear can corrupt it, and fear is your choice. Faith is also your choice. Choose wisely. Part 8. Complete surrender, trust, or it will never happen. Overthinking is rebellion against divine guidance. Trust is obedience. Every time you hesitate after God has placed a desire in your heart, you are declaring that your judgment is superior to His. You are saying, I will wait until I am certain, though infinite intelligence has already spoken through your burning desire. Overthinking is disobedience dressed as caution. Trust is obedience clothed in faith. The truth is simple. God has a plan for you. It is revealed in your desire, confirmed by your imagination, guided by your subconscious, and tested through persistence. But unless you surrender fully, without hesitation, without overthinking, it will never happen. Trust is the final key. Without it, the entire structure of success collapses. With it, the gates of destiny open wide. All great leaders were guided by trust in unseen forces. Abraham Lincoln mocked and doubted, trusted that Providence had called him to preserve the Union. Henry Ford, told that his automobile dream was folly, trusted his vision and persisted. Andrew Carnegie, beginning as a poor boy, trusted the plan to master steel. Thomas Edison, surrounded by failure, trusted that light would come. They lived by trust, not fear. Fear is the devil's hypnosis. It blinds men, paralyzes their will, and leads them to drift. It whispers that the plan is too risky, the critics too strong, the resources too scarce. But faith breaks the spell. Trust in God is the awakening. It is the moment when the mind says, I will not be ruled by fear. I will act as though success is already certain. In that surrender lies freedom. Say with me now, I trust God's plan fully. I live by faith, not by fear. I obey the vision given to me. I know nothing can defeat me when I walk in trust. These words are not mere sounds. They are commands to your subconscious. They are signals to infinite intelligence. Speak them daily, and you will discover their power. Each repetition deepens your trust until it becomes unshakable. Consider this truth. When you first read a great book, you believe you understand it. Yet return to it later, and you discover truths that seemed hidden the first time. They were not absent. You were not ready to see them. How many men read Think and Grow Rich once and say, I know this, but remain poor? Only those who study it repeatedly, year after year, discover the secret, for each reading reveals more. This law applies here. You must not hear this instruction once and forget it. You must listen again and again. Each time you will hear something new. Each time you will see a truth you missed before. Each time you will discover not only more in these words, but more in yourself. For repetition impresses the subconscious, and the subconscious, once convinced, connects you to infinite intelligence. Do not trust your first hearing. Do not flatter yourself with the thought, I already know this. The man who says he knows has closed the door to growth. The man who listens again, as though for the first time, discovers treasures deeper than before. Truth is infinite, and each unit of time reveals a new layer. What seemed hidden yesterday shines like gold today when you return with faith. Think of the man who attends church year after year, hearing the same passages of Scripture. Each time he hears them, they strike him differently. In youth, they sound one way, in trial another, in victory yet another. The words have not changed. The man has changed. His new state of mind allows him to hear more deeply. So it is with this philosophy. Repetition is the path to revelation. Therefore, I say to you, repeat this daily. Play these words again and again. Speak them aloud. Let them echo in your room, in your heart, in your soul. The more you repeat, the more you will believe. The more you believe, the more you will trust. And the more you trust, the more you will see God's plan unfolding in your life, step by step, day by day, with certainty. Overthinking ends when trust begins. But trust must be reinforced daily. The world will try to drag you back into fear, criticism, and hesitation. That is why you must return again and again to the well of faith. Drink deeply every day. Remind yourself of these truths. Saturate your subconscious until it obeys nothing but faith. Then you will stand immovable, no matter what storms arise. The man who trusts fully is unshakable. He does not drift. He does not hesitate. He does not waver. He decides. He persists. He imagines. He plans. He acts. He obeys the vision within him because he knows it is God's command. He trusts even when he cannot see. He obeys even when others mock. He continues even when defeat arrives. And in the end, he triumphs because he trusted. Now I leave you with this command: trust or it will never happen. Surrender your overthinking, your hesitation, your doubt. Replace them with faith, obedience, and persistence. Live by trust, and you will discover that infinite intelligence has been guiding you all along. Fear is slavery. Trust is freedom. Overthinking is death. Faith is life. Choose this day whom you will serve, fear or faith, doubt or trust, drifting or destiny. But do not stop here. Listen again. Read again. Return to these words tomorrow, and you will hear something you did not hear today. In a new unit of time, you will find something else in this, and something else in yourself through this. For truth is alive, and it grows with you. Each repetition is a revelation. Each return is a rebirth. Each listening is a step deeper into the life of faith. Remember always, you did not master your alphabet by reading it once. You did not master arithmetic by hearing it a single time. You repeated, you practiced, you returned until it became second nature. So it is with faith. So it is with trust. You must repeat daily until it becomes who you are. Only then will overthinking vanish, and obedience to God's plan become your natural state. Therefore, I say again, trust, repeat, return. Speak these affirmations daily. Listen again and again. Each time you will grow stronger. Each time you will see deeper. Each time you will find more in the words and more in yourself. And in that repetition lies the secret of mastery, the key to trust, and the door to destiny. Trust, or it will never happen.